a group of cells having similar structure and function forms a tissue. Meaning, all the organisms who are made up of cells have a group of cells having similar origin and function forming a tissue. The two organisms, namely the plant and the animal, are made up of tissues The plant tissue is made up of two different type of cells. First one is meristematic and second is the permanent. Animal tissue are made of four different tissues. Firstly, the epithelial, second, the muscular tissue, third, the nervous tissue, and fourth, the connective tissue. The plant body and animal body are having the group of cells which are actively dividing and who have lost the ability to divide or are called as the non-dividing tissues. The meristematic tissue in the plant is formed of the actively dividing cells, and the permanent tissue is formed of non-dividing cells. The meristematic tissue is further divided into two groups. One is apical meristematic tissue or apical meristem, and the other one is the lateral meristem. The permanent tissue are again grouped into two different forms, as the simple one, simple permanent plant tissue, and the complex tissue. The simple and complex tissues are permanent cells or the permanent non-dividing cells. The simple is again divided into three types. First is PCS, that is parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. The complex tissues are the ones who conduct or transport different materials inside the plant body, that is the xylem and phloem. The apical meristematic tissue or the apical meristem is responsible for increase in height or length. The lateral meristem is responsible for the increase in the width or the diameter of the plant body. In an animal body, the animal tissues are of four types. One which covers the entire body of the organism, that is the epithelial tissue. It is found in the lining of internal organs, beneath which the muscular tissue is there. The epithelial is divided into squamous, columnar and cuboidal. The muscular is divided into three groups. One is voluntary, that is called the skeletal or striated muscles. Second one is the involuntary and the cardiac. Voluntary and involuntary muscles are the two kinds of muscles which are based upon the control or the will of the organism. The nervous tissue is composed of longest cells, that is the neuron or the nerve cell. The connective tissue is based on the fluidity material fluid connective tissue and hard connective tissue. The fluid connective tissue means the blood and lymph, and the hard connective tissue is bone and cartilage. This is a briefing or the concept mapping of two different organisms having different kinds of tissues in them. The plant body and the animal body is made up of these cells or tissues. Now we will be taking few questions over them. We have studied these chapters in the previous lecture. Now we will be taking the questions for the plant tissue first. You know that the plant tissue have the main actively dividing cells forming the meristematic tissue. It have both kind of tissues which are responsible for increase in length and increase in the diameter. So this is AMT, apical meristematic tissue. Next is LMT, that is lateral meristematic tissue. Second cells which have lost or stopped completely in division are the permanent tissue. These are again divided into two. One is simple and is found in almost every part of the plant body. The first one, which is composed of living cells, is called parenchyma, and the cells which are thick walled and living forms the second simple permanent plant tissue, that is collenchyma. And the last one, having thick wall with lignin and are dead, are called as sclerenchyma. These three simple permanent plant tissue are formed of dead or non-dividing group of cells and provide support to the plant body, amongst which the sclerenchyma are forming the hard protective shells like you have seen in the cotton, hemp, husk of coconut and walnuts. The permanent tissue, which is complex, has both kind of complex tissues which are mostly living in nature and dead in nature. The xylem and phloem the xylem, only one XP is living, rest others are dead, and phloem personal formula, that is PF, phloem fibers are dead and these are mostly living, and xylem is made up of dead cells. The other components of xylem tissue includes the xylem tracheids, xylem vessels, xylem parenchyma, xylem fiber, in which xylem parenchyma is composed of living cells and phloem is composed of phloem sieve cells, phloem companion cells, phloem parenchyma and phloem fibers, in which phloem fibers are dead. For this chapter, we learnt a formula in which AMT and LMT was showing the increase in height or length and the increase in diameter, and for simple, that is PCS, protective tissue, these three tissues are providing protection to the plant body. Along with this, the simple permanent tissue is having another form of protective tissue, that is providing the outer protective covering of the plant and protection from external influences like the epidermis. Epi means upper, dermis means layer. The epidermis is generally made up of a single layer of closely packed cells. The outer walls of the epidermis are usually thick and covered with cutin. Cutin provides the waxy coating for the prevention of any deposition of germ or dust over the body of plant, and the cork is also protective tissue located at the periphery of the roots and stem. Periphery means the outer lining. Cork is also called as the bark or the cambium. So questions might come along for this chapter, like which plant tissue does not have the cells with actively division. So you will be writing the meristematic tissue, or the options might be given for apical meristematic tissue or lateral meristematic tissue. And for the question for which cells do not have or stopped completely for cell division are the permanent tissue or any tissue which is given like the simple or complex one. Cellulose is a type of complex carbohydrate which forms the cell wall, and cell wall is made from the non-living or dead cells. The collenchyma is thickened at the corners due to the presence of cellulose and pectin. These two are the proteins which thickens the wall of the epidermis and the cell wall. Cellulose and pectin provides structural support to growing stems and leaves, and the mechanical strength is provided by the sclerenchyma simple . For the plants, the meristematic tissue is much more simpler, but the permanent tissue is forming the complex tissues or the group of cells having complex structure and complex functioning. Example, the xylem, which is responsible for the transportation of plants, transportation of water in the plants, and food through the phloem, which enables a bidirectional flow of material within the plant body. In the phloem, the sieve cells are actually responsible for the translocation of food. Translocation is a term which is used only for the transportation of food from the leaves to different organs of the plant. Xylem and phloem of the complex tissue forms the vascular bundles which forms the system of transportation in the plants, that is vascular system. So now you know that the xylem is water conducting tissue and the phloem is food conducting tissue, which is complex permanent plant tissue and is made up of non-dividing cells, or the cells who have lost the ability to divide. The living component of phloem is phloem fibers, phloem sieve cells, phloem companion cells, phloem parenchyma, and the dead component is phloem fibers. The xylem is naturally dead, but it have a living component, that is xylem parenchyma. The permanent tissue, which is simple, is of two types. One provides protection and another provides support, and the supportive tissues are called parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. Along with this, the plant tissue, which is simple in nature as compared to the animal tissue, forms the transport system of water and material like food inside the plant body by the vascular system composed of vascular bundle, that is xylem and phloem. So this much is there for the plant tissue. Now we will be taking the animal tissue. The animals are made up of 4 different tissues, namely the epithelium or the epithelial cells, which is divided into 3: the squamous, columnar and cuboidal. Squamous is found in the blood vessels, lungs, heart and the food pipe or esophagus. The columnar epithelium is found in the lining of the stomach, intestine and the pharynx, which is a common path for both food and water and also for air. The cuboidal epithelium is found in the glands like the salivary gland, thyroid gland, etc., liver, pancreas and kidney tubules. This tissue is present in many parts of the animal body performing the function of protection, release of different enzymes or specialized secretions that help in digestion, also help in removal of waste products like the salivary gland secrete the enzyme known as ptyalin or salivary amylase, and the sweat glands which remove the salt and excess water from the body, and the kidneys help to remove the waste products from the body in the form of urine. Second tissue is the muscular tissue, which brings about the movement in the body first under will, second not under will, third cardiac. Cardiac muscles work since the birth till the death. They do not stop even for a single second. The cardiac muscles cause rhythmic contraction of the heart muscles, which brings the lub and dub sound or results in the circulation of blood. The muscular tissue which is under control or the will of the body is called as the skeletal tissue, skeletal muscle, or the striated muscle. This is termed as the voluntary muscles made up of voluntary cells, and which is not in our control is called as the unstriated muscles. These type of muscles are found in the alimentary canal, that is the digestive tract of the body, or the urinary bladder that does not function according to our will. The voluntary may be found in the arms or the limbs like the forelimbs and hind limbs, etc. And the cardiac muscles have specialized cytoplasm named as sarcoplasm, which is enveloped in a special membrane called sarcolemma. Next comes the nervous tissue, in which the longest cell of the body that is the nerve cell groups to form the nerves. The nerve cell is also called as nerves, which are one of the important component of the nervous system. The longest part or dendrite of the neuron is axon, which arises from the cell body or the cyton. The cyton receives the impulse from different neurons by a communication junction which is called as synapse. The neurons are present all over the body, which receive the functioning or the changes around from the environment or the internal surrounding. This forms the nervous tissue, formed from the longest cells of the body, that is the nerve cell or neuron, which groups to form the nerves, that is an important constituent or composition of nervous system other than the brain and spinal cord. About the neuron, its longest part or the longest dendrite is called as the axon, which arises from the cell body or cyton. Cyton receives the impulses from different neurons through a communication junction called synapse. And the last tissue, that is the connective tissue, is divided into connective tissue proper and skeletal tissue. The skeletal tissue is of two types. One is cartilage. It is found in the nose and ear pinna. Visible examples, or it is present between two bones. You must be remembering the formula TLC MB BBS. T for tendon, that joins muscle to bone, L for ligament, that joins bone to bone, and C for cartilage, that is soft in nature or provides cushioning to the parts where two bones meet. The skeletal tissue, one is cartilage, another one is bone. Bone is a hard connective tissue. The connective tissue proper are of four types, in which the widely distributive tissue is called as the areolar tissue. It is a continuous layer under the skin binding the skin with the underlying organs. This tissue fills up the space between various organs and acts as a packing material around them. Next connective tissue proper is the yellow fibrous tissue, that is also called as the ligaments. The ligament join the bone to another bone and next is the white fibrous. This is called as the tendon which joins the muscle to the bone. And last one is the adipose tissue, which is primarily located between or beneath the skin and also found around the internal organs. This tissue stores fat or energy in the form of fat and provides insulation or protective padding around the organs during unfavorable conditions. So this tissue does the function of storage. Tendon performs the function to join the bone to the muscle, and ligament join the muscle to the bone to bone, and areolar tissue is found beneath the skin and underlying organs. The connective tissue, which is fluid connective, that is called as the blood and lymph. Blood does the function of transporting different materials inside the body, and lymph provides defense mechanism or the support for immunity. Blood has two parts. One is the liquid part, that is called as the plasma, and blood cells, namely RBC, WBC and platelets. This you have studied. This was a quick revision of the chapter tissue, that is plant tissue and animal tissue. In the next class, we will be taking the classification of living organism or the living kingdom. So that's all for today. Tomorrow you'll have your test for the plant tissue and animal tissue. I hope you are well prepared. All the best for tomorrow's test. And this was the revision for these two chapters which are coming in your test tomorrow. So I think this much is okay for the revision. Rest you all need to study from the book, and all the best. Don't forget to like and subscribe the channel. See you in the next class. Thank you, students.